It wasn't the first time she told me to sleep on the couch, but it was the first time I didn't argue, didn't try to fix it. I just grabbed my keys, left the house we once called ours, and didn't look back. She thought I'd sulk in silence. What she never saw coming was that I was done. Name's Greg. I'm 41, been married for almost 13 years. At least I was. We lived, in a quiet suburb outside Indianapolis. Two-story house with a brick facade, neatly trimmed yard, the kind of place you drive past and think, they've got it all together. Truth is, things looked better from the outside. Always did. Melissa and I met in college. She was bold, driven, had a plan for everything. I admired that. I was steadier, more laid back. She said I calmed her down. I liked the fire in her. For a long time, we worked, complimented each other in a way that felt right. Then somewhere along the way, it stopped feeling right. Or maybe it just stopped feeling like us. Things started small. She'd nitpick more, roll her eyes when I talked, forget to ask about my day. I told myself it was stress, her job, the house life. But when you come home every night to someone who makes you feel like a burden, eventually, you stop trying. It wasn't always like that. There were good years. Years where we'd fall asleep laughing. Years where we dreamed about starting a family, taking trips to wine country, adopting a dog. We tried, for a while, to make it work. But we'd been more like roommates than spouses for the past 3 years. I think what really did it for me was the silence. Not the screaming or arguing. The silence. You sit across from someone for dinner every night, and all you hear is the clinking of forks. That's when you know things are gone. Not broken, just gone. That night, it was a Thursday, everything came to a head. I had just walked in from work. I'm in IT support at a small logistics company. Not glamorous, but steady. Pays well. I fix people's computer issues and keep the servers running. I like systems. Systems make sense. People? Not so much. Anyway, I get home around 6:15. The house smells like takeout, but there's only one box on the counter. Hers. She's in the living room, on the couch, scrolling through her phone like I'm not even there. Hey, I say. She barely looks up. Hey. I drop my keys into the bowl by the door. Did you eat already? Yeah. Figured you'd grab something on the way. I didn't. She didn't ask. That's how it was these days. Every interaction felt like a test I didn't know I was taking. I pour myself a glass of water and sit at the other end of the couch. She shifts like I'm crowding her. We sit there in silence for a minute before she says, "Can you not breathe so loud?" I'm trying to focus. I blink. Sorry. She sets her phone down. You always do this. Come home and act like everything's fine. Like I'm just supposed to drop what I'm doing and entertain you. I didn't say anything. I start. That's the problem, Greg. You never say anything. You just sit there, waiting for me to make the first move. To ask how your day was. To plan date nights. To care. I'm tired. I sat there, letting the words hang in the air. And maybe for the first time, I wasn't hurt. I was just done. She kept going. You can sleep on the couch tonight. I need space. I stood up quietly. Nodded. She looked surprised I didn't argue. Maybe she expected me to grovel like I had the last dozen times. But this time, I walked into the bedroom, opened my drawer, pulled out the small overnight bag I kept for business trips, and started packing. 2 pairs of jeans. 3 shirts. Chargers. Shaving kit. I walked into the kitchen, set my house key on the table. She was still on the couch, staring at me like I was some ghost in her living room. "Where are you going?" she asked, voice tight. I didn't smile. Didn't snap. I just said, "Somewhere with a bed." And I walked out the door. I didn't have a plan. Just the bag, my car, and that strange weightless feeling you get when you finally stop carrying something heavy. I drove for a while. Thought about crashing at a friend's place, but I didn't want to talk. I just needed quiet. Pulled into a Holiday Inn. Paid for 2 nights. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean, and the AC worked. I stood in the doorway of that room, looked around, and felt peace. I hadn't realized how tense I'd been for so long until my shoulders finally relaxed. I slept like a rock that night. Next morning, I didn't go to work. I called in a personal day and drove around town checking rental listings. I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't cooling off. I was moving on. By noon, I'd signed the lease on a small 1-bedroom unit about 15 minutes from work. First floor, clean carpet, a balcony overlooking a little pond. The leasing agent was a guy named Sam, friendly, chatty. I told him I needed a place fast, and he got me keys within hours. I drove back to the house that afternoon while Melissa was at work. Didn't want drama. Just wanted my things. Packed up a few essentials. Clothes. Laptop. My guitar. Some tools from the garage. Left the wedding album. Left the framed vacation photos. Left the us stuff. That part of my life was over. I left a note on the counter. Not long. Just, I'm not angry. Just tired. Take care of yourself. Greg. That night, I slept in my own bed in my own place. No couch. No silence. Just peace. Over the next few days, Melissa called a few times. I didn't answer. She didn't text. That was her way. If she couldn't control the conversation, she'd rather not have it. I wasn't trying to punish her. I just didn't have anything left to give. Friends started reaching out. Word spread fast. Some were shocked. Others, not so much. My buddy Ron said, "Man, I always wondered how you put up with her attitude. But I didn't want to meddle." My sister said, "You finally did something for you. Proud of you." It stung, hearing that. Made me realize how obvious it had been to everyone but me. I wasn't perfect. I could have tried harder. But I also knew I'd spent years walking on eggshells, twisting myself into knots to make her happy. And still, it was never enough. Funny how fast you adjust once you decide to be free. I got used to cooking for one. Binge-watched shows I actually liked. Took long walks in the evening without checking in. Bought cheap furniture. Slept diagonally across the bed just because I could. I wasn't happy yet, but I was getting there. And then, a week later, she showed up. It was a Sunday afternoon, just after I'd come back from the grocery store. I was standing in my tiny kitchen, putting away a rotisserie chicken and some instant rice, when there was a knock at the door. I froze. Nobody knew my new address, except for my sister and my landlord. I opened the door, and there she was. Melissa, wearing a long cardigan, holding her phone in one hand and sunglasses in the other, looking like she wasn't sure if she wanted to yell or cry. I just said, "Hey." She looked past me into the apartment. It wasn't much, some flat-pack furniture, a folding table I'd been eating dinner on, a cheap couch from Facebook Marketplace. It wasn't homey, but it was mine. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, looking around like she couldn't believe it. "You really left. I told you I was tired. You didn't even fight. You just walked out." I leaned against the counter. "You told me to sleep on the couch. I did one better." She dropped her purse on the armrest of the couch and sat down, rubbing her temples like her head hurt. "I thought you were just being dramatic. Cooling off." I stayed quiet. She looked up at me. "How long have you been planning this?" I shook my head. I wasn't. I just couldn't do it anymore. There was a long pause. The kind where everything unsaid hovers in the air like fog. She finally asked, "So that's it? 13 years, and you're done because I snapped at you?" I took a slow breath. "It wasn't that night, Melissa. It was every night for the last 3 years. The night you stopped looking me in the eye. The day you rolled over and said you had a headache for the 5th time that week. The way you laughed harder at your phone than you ever did at my jokes." She bit her lip. "You never said anything." "I did. You just stopped listening." She leaned back. "I was stressed. Work has been hell. My mom's been sick. I've been holding it all together." "I know," I said, "and I tried to be there for you. But you treated me like background noise." Melissa looked around the room again. "Is this really what you want? Living in this tiny apartment alone?" I didn't want any of this. I wanted a partner. But I stopped being your husband a long time ago. I was just a convenience. She didn't deny it. Just looked down at her hands. After a minute, she whispered, "I miss you." I closed my eyes for a second. I miss who we used to be. But I don't miss feeling invisible. There were tears now, barely held back. "I thought we'd grow old together," she said. "I thought we'd be kind to each other," I replied. She left shortly after that. No yelling. No scene. Just a sad, slow goodbye. I didn't watch her walk away. I just stood there, hands braced on the kitchen counter, waiting for the door to click shut. When it did, it felt like a chapter closing, clean, painful, necessary. I won't lie and say everything got easier overnight. There were moments I'd roll over in bed expecting to feel her beside me. Mornings I'd reach for 2 mugs out of habit. Days when I'd hear a song and wonder if she was listening to it too. But those moments passed. I started taking better care of myself. Hit the gym again. Cooked real meals. Got a plant I haven't killed yet. Started going to open mic nights with my guitar. Even made a few friends who didn't know me as Melissa's husband. They just knew me as Greg. Freedom has a strange texture. It's not loud. It's not euphoric. It's soft, quiet, like clean sheets or the first warm day after winter. A few months later, I ran into her at the farmer's market. She was with a friend. We exchanged polite smiles. No anger. No bitterness. She looked good, healthy. I hope I did too. We didn't stop to talk. And that was okay. I'd finally learned that you don't have to win the argument. You just have to choose yourself. So yeah, my wife told me to sleep on the couch. So I did. In my new apartment. In my own bed. Surrounded by peace. And I've never slept better.